The news broadcast played on every screen across Earth. Rachel Odom felt the weight of 2 billion eyes watching her as she stood in the Galactic Assembly Hall. The chamber stretched higher than any cathedral, its walls made of living crystal that pulsed with light from a dozen alien suns. Around her, the representatives of 12 founding species sat in their elevated seats, looking down at the lone human ambassador. Quell spoke first. The Shardborn leader's body was composed of interlocking crystal fragments that shifted and chimed with each word. Humanity has expanded too quickly. You claim systems without permission. You refuse to acknowledge our authority. This cannot continue, Rachel kept her voice steady. We've only settled uninhabited worlds. We've broken no laws. You break the greatest law, Quell said. The crystal being's voice echoed through the hall. The law of knowing your place. You are young. You are weak. Yet you act as equals to species who ruled the stars before your ancestors learned to make fire. The other representatives murmured agreement. Rachel saw them clearly now. The Scalebringers with their armored hides, the Verdani whose bodies grew like living plants, the Aquari who floated in tanks of shimmering water, all of them ancient, all of them powerful, all of them united in their contempt for humanity. We offer you a choice, Quell continued. Accept vassal status under our guidance or face the gauntlet of champions. Rachel's throat went dry. She knew about the gauntlet. Every species in the galaxy knew about it. It was an ancient tradition, a test of worthiness that no challenged species had ever passed. Explain the terms. You will send 1 champion, any creature from your world. That champion will face 12 beasts in succession, 1 from each founding species. 12 trials. 12 battles. If your champion survives all 12, Earth remains independent. If your champion falls, Earth becomes our vassal world for 1,000 years. And if we refuse both options, Quell's crystalline body brightened with what might have been amusement. Then we blockade your system. No trade, no travel, no contact with the galaxy. Your species will suffocate in isolation while the universe moves on without you. Rachel returned to Earth with 30 days to choose a champion. The Global Defense Council met within hours. Military leaders filled the conference room in Geneva, along with scientists, politicians, and strategic advisors. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had a candidate. We send Lieutenant Commander David Park, insisted General Brooks. He's enhanced with military-grade cybernetics. Faster reflexes, stronger muscles, tactical computer in his brain. He's designed for exactly this kind of combat. No, said Dr. Nina Volkov. We need someone with genetic modifications. I've undergone experimental treatments that enhance healing, increase bone density, improve neural processing. I volunteer myself. The arguments continued for 3 days. Rachel listened to them all. Enhanced soldiers, genetically modified scientists, even proposals to build an android or synthetic being. But something felt wrong about every suggestion. The galaxy expected humanity to send their best warrior, their most advanced fighter. Maybe that was exactly what they should not do. Ben Cross heard about the gauntlet while sitting in the observation hut at his sanctuary in Rwanda. The small building overlooked a valley where 17 mountain gorillas lived in protected freedom. He'd spent 15 years of his life here, working with rescued apes who'd been orphaned by poachers or injured by habitat destruction. The broadcast showed clips of the Galactic Assembly, of the 12 alien species, of humanity's impossible choice. His eyes went to Atlas. The massive Silverback sat in the valley below, watching over his family group. 450 pounds of muscle and intelligence. Ben had raised Atlas from an infant after poachers killed his mother. They'd been together for 12 years now. They communicated through sign language. They understood each other in ways that went deeper than words. Ben watched Atlas settle a dispute between 2 younger males. The Silverback didn't use violence. He placed himself between them, made eye contact with each one, and the tension dissolved. Leadership through presence, not force. Protection through vigilance, not aggression. Everything the galaxy seemed to have forgotten. An idea formed in Ben's mind. A crazy idea, an impossible idea. But the more he thought about it, the more sense it made. He spent a week trying to reach Ambassador Odom. He sent messages through every channel he could find. Finally, someone at the embassy took him seriously enough to forward his proposal up the chain. 3 days later, Rachel herself arrived at the sanctuary by helicopter. You want to send a gorilla, she said. They sat in the observation hut while Atlas and his family foraged in the valley. That's your proposal. Send Atlas to fight 12 alien apex predators. Not just Atlas, Ben said. Both of us. I'd be his handler, his partner. The gauntlet isn't about technology, Ambassador. It's about primal strength and the will to survive. The galaxy is testing whether we're worthy to stand among them. Maybe we show them that humanity's strength isn't our weapons or our enhancements. Maybe we show them that our strength is recognizing worth in other beings and standing beside them. He'd die in the first trial. Maybe. But maybe not. Atlas is stronger than any human could ever be, even with enhancements. He's intelligent. He's strategic. He learns and adapts, and most importantly, he fights to protect. That's different from fighting to conquer. Rachel studied the gorilla in the valley. Atlas had noticed them watching and had signed something toward the hut. Ben signed back. A conversation in gestures that clearly meant something to both of them. The world will call this insane, Rachel said. The world called humanity's expansion into space insane once too. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then she pulled out her communication device and made a call. This is Ambassador Odom. I'm authorizing an unconventional proposal for the Gauntlet champion. Prepare for significant public reaction. The next 2 weeks were chaos. News networks around the world ran constant coverage. Military analysts called it suicide. Scientists called it foolish. Politicians called it an embarrassment. But something unexpected happened. Regular people started to support the idea. Workers and teachers and parents who'd never cared about galactic politics suddenly felt connected to this story. A man and his gorilla brother facing impossible odds together. Ben spent every moment preparing Atlas, not through violence or aggression training. They'd never needed that. Instead, they reinforced their communication, their trust, their understanding of each other. Ben showed Atlas videos of the alien species, letting the Silverback observe and learn. Atlas watched with focused intelligence, his dark eyes tracking movement patterns and body language. The day before they left Earth, Ben sat with Atlas in the valley. The other gorillas had gathered close, sensing something was changing. Ben signed to his friend. We're going somewhere dangerous. You don't have to do this. Atlas looked at Ben for a long moment. Then he signed back, you go. I go, family. That simple statement contained everything. They weren't human and gorilla. They were family. And family protected each other no matter what came. The transport ship arrived the next morning. Ben and Atlas boarded together while camera crews recorded every moment. As the ship lifted into the sky, Ben pressed his hand against the viewport and watched Earth grow smaller below them. They were heading toward Crucible Station, toward the Gauntlet, toward 12 battles that would decide humanity's fate. Atlas sat beside him, calm and ready. The Silverback had no concept of galactic politics or alien species. He only understood that Ben needed him, and that was enough. Together they would face whatever came next. Together they would show the galaxy what partnership truly meant. The journey to Crucible Station would take 5 days. 5 days to prepare for trials that would test them beyond anything either had ever experienced. But as Ben looked at Atlas, he felt something unexpected. Not fear, not doubt, but certainty. They'd made the right choice. Win or lose, humanity would show the galaxy who they really were. Crucible Station filled the viewport like a mechanical moon. Ben pressed closer to the window, staring at the massive structure. The entire moon had been carved out and rebuilt as an arena complex. Towers and viewing platforms jutted from its surface like metal thorns. Lights glowed from 1,000,000 windows where beings from across the galaxy watched and waited. Atlas sat beside him, studying the station with quiet intensity. The Silverback had handled the journey well, adapting to the ship's artificial gravity and the strange sensation of space travel. Ben had worried about how Atlas would react to being confined, but his friend seemed to understand the necessity. They'd spent the 5-day journey preparing, watching recordings of the 12 founding species and their homeworlds. The transport docked with a heavy clang. Automated doors hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with alien beings. They came in shapes and sizes that Earth had never imagined. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some had scales, others had fur, and some seemed to be made of materials that shouldn't be alive at all. All of them stopped and stared when Ben and Atlas emerged. Laughter started somewhere in the crowd. It spread quickly, becoming a wave of mockery that followed them down the corridor. Ben heard his translator device converting alien languages into cruel words. That's their champion. The humans send an animal? This will be over in seconds. Ben kept his eyes forward and his hand near Atlas. The Silverback walked upright beside him, his knuckles occasionally touching the floor for balance. Atlas showed no reaction to the laughter. His face remained calm, his movements steady. A guide drone led them deeper into the station. The corridors grew wider, eventually opening into a vast holding area. Here, Ben saw them, the 12 beasts. Each was contained in an energy field that hummed with power. The creatures inside represented millions of years of evolution, each one designed by nature to be the perfect predator of its world. Fang coiled in the first containment field. The reptilian hunter stretched 20 feet from head to tail, its scales the color of desert sand. Venom dripped from fangs as long as Ben's forearm, sizzling when it hit the floor. Render paced in another field on 6 powerful legs. Ice crystals formed in the air around it. The creature's claws gleamed like polished knives and its breath created frost patterns on the energy barrier. Shrike perched on a high bar, its wings folded against a body built for aerial assassination. The flying predator watched everything with eyes that saw in spectrums Ben couldn't imagine. Ben counted them all. 12 beasts, 12 trials, each one capable of killing a human in seconds. His throat felt tight as he realized what he'd committed Atlas to face. But Atlas didn't show fear. The Silverback studied each beast carefully, the way he might study a rival male in the wild. Ben watched his friend analyze threats, calculate dangers, and prepare responses. Atlas wasn't just an animal. He was a thinking being, reading his opponents before the fights even began. The handlers for the other beasts stood near their containment fields. They looked at Ben with expressions ranging from pity to contempt. One handler, a being whose skin seemed to be made of overlapping plates of shell, actually approached. "Your creature won't survive the first trial," the handler said through Ben's translator. "Fang has killed warriors from 6 species. Surrender now and spare it the pain." Ben met the handler's eyes. "We didn't come here to surrender." The handler made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Then you came here to die." That evening, they gathered all the champions in the main arena for the opening ceremony. The arena floor stretched enormous below the viewing platforms. 2 million seats surrounded the space, everyone filled with spectators from across the galaxy. Holographic displays floated in the air, broadcasting the event to countless more worlds. One by one, the champions were presented. Each beast entered through a separate gate, displayed for the crowd's entertainment. The handlers spoke about their creatures' capabilities, their home worlds, their perfect designs for killing. When Atlas's turn came, Ben and the Silverback walked onto the arena floor together. The laughter was immediate and deafening. Commentators in a dozen languages made jokes that Ben's translator converted. His face burned with embarrassment, but he forced himself to stay calm. Then something happened that made the laughter pause. Atlas stopped in the center of the arena. The Silverback stood to his full height, rising on his legs until his massive frame towered in the lights. He looked up at the viewing boxes, directly at where the assembly leaders sat, and then Atlas beat his chest once. The sound echoed across the arena like a drum of war. It was a challenge, primal and unmistakable. The message was clear: "I see you. I'm not afraid. Come and test me." The crowd fell silent for 3 heartbeats. Then the noise returned, but different now, uncertain. Some beings had recognized what they'd just witnessed. Not an animal performing a trick. A warrior issuing a challenge to those who thought themselves superior. In the high viewing box, Quell leaned forward. The Shardborn leader's crystalline body pulsed with light as it processed what it had seen. Beside Quell, General Hearn of the Scalebringers dismissed the display. "It is instinct. The creature doesn't understand what's happening." But Quell wasn't sure. Those eyes, that deliberate gesture, that was not instinct, that was intent. The ceremony ended and they were escorted back to a private holding cell. The room was small but clean, with a water supply and basic facilities. Ben checked Atlas carefully, examining his hands and feet, making sure he was hydrated and comfortable. Through the walls they could hear the other beasts, roaring, hissing, scraping against containment fields. Atlas signed to Ben. They loud, afraid. Ben blinked in surprise. He listened more carefully to the sounds. Atlas was right. The other beasts weren't displaying confidence. They were agitated, nervous, uncertain. Animals preparing for something they couldn't understand or control. But Atlas was calm. He sat peacefully, breathing steadily, his eyes clear and focused. He wasn't preparing to survive. He was preparing to protect, to stand between Ben and anything that might threaten him. That's what Atlas had always done. That's what he would do tomorrow. Ben pulled out a datapad and showed Atlas footage of Fang again. They'd watched it before, but now they reviewed it with new purpose. Fang's strike patterns, the way it coiled before attacking, how it used its tail for balance. Atlas watched intently, memorizing details that might save his life. Hours passed. Outside their cell, the station buzzed with activity. Gambling lines opened across the galaxy, with odds heavily against Earth's champion. Analysts predicted Atlas would fall within minutes of the first trial. Some even suggested the fight would be stopped early out of mercy. Ben tried to sleep but couldn't. His mind raced through scenarios, through possibilities, through fears he couldn't voice. At some point during the night, he felt a large, gentle hand on his shoulder. Atlas had moved beside him and was signing slowly. Together. Family. Not afraid. Those simple words broke through Ben's anxiety. He took a deep breath and signed back. Together. Always together. They sat like that for a while, human and gorilla, sharing the weight of what would come. Outside, Crucible Station rotated slowly through space, carrying them toward dawn. The first trial would begin in 6 hours. Neither of them knew if they would survive the day, but they knew they would face it together, and somehow that made the impossible seem almost manageable. Atlas eventually curled up to rest, his massive body filling half the small room. Ben leaned against his friend's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of breathing, the warmth of living muscle, the presence of someone who'd never abandoned him. The galaxy expected a spectacle. They expected Earth's champion to fall quickly and dramatically. They expected confirmation that humanity didn't belong among the stars. They had no idea what was actually coming. Dawn never came to Crucible Station. The moon rotated through artificial cycles controlled by machines. When the lights in their cell shifted from dim to bright, Ben knew it was time. His stomach churned with acid. He'd barely slept 3 hours. Atlas, by contrast, looked rested and focused. The Silverback stretched his powerful arms and legs, loosening muscles that would soon be tested beyond anything evolution had prepared them for. The door opened without warning. Guard drones hovered in the corridor, weapons charged and ready in case Atlas turned aggressive. They didn't understand. Atlas had never been the aggressor in his entire life. He defended, he protected, but he never attacked first. They followed the drones to the arena entrance. Through the tunnel, Ben heard the crowd. 2 million voices creating a sound like ocean waves. His hands trembled as he checked Atlas one final time. The Silverback looked at him and signed, "Ready." Ben signed back. "First one is Fang. Fast strike." "Remember the pattern." Atlas nodded once. They'd studied Fang's movements for hours. The reptilian hunter coiled and struck with incredible speed, but there was a tell in how its muscles bunched before each attack. If Atlas could read that tell, he'd have a fraction of a second to react. The gates opened. Sunlight flooded the tunnel from the arena's artificial sky. Ben walked out onto the observation platform, a raised structure that kept him safe but close enough to see everything. Atlas continued forward onto the arena floor. The surface had been transformed into a desert environment. Red sand covered everything. Rocks jutted up like teeth. Heat shimmered in the air. Somewhere in this manufactured wilderness, Fang waited. The crowd's noise became deafening. Holographic displays showed Atlas from every angle. Commentators spoke in languages Ben didn't understand, but he knew they were discussing how quickly this would end. How soon the gorilla would fall. A gate on the opposite side opened. Fang slithered out 20 feet of scaled death. The creature's body moved like liquid over the sand. Its head wove side to side, testing the air with a forked tongue. Yellow eyes fixed on Atlas. Ben's heart hammered. This was real. This was happening. His best friend was about to fight a creature designed by millions of years of evolution to kill efficiently. But Atlas didn't charge. He waited, stood his ground on all 4 limbs, watching Fang approach. The Silverback's eyes tracked every movement, reading, learning, adapting. Fang struck without warning. Its body uncoiled like a spring, jaws wide. fangs dripping venom. The speed was incredible. Most creatures would have died in that first second. Atlas moved, not away but sideways. The attack missed by inches. Fang's momentum carried it past, and for a moment its body was extended and vulnerable. Atlas didn't hesitate. He grabbed the creature behind its head with both hands, his grip powerful enough to crack stone. Fang thrashed wildly. Its tail whipped around, striking Atlas in the ribs. The silverback grunted but didn't let go. Venom sprayed from the creature's fangs, hitting the sand where it sizzled and burned. Atlas shifted his grip, keeping his hands away from those deadly jaws. Then Atlas did something that made the crowd gasp. He lifted Fang off the ground and slammed it down into the sand with devastating force. Once, twice, 3 times. Each impact created a crater. Fang's struggles weakened. The 4th slam ended the fight. The reptilian hunter went limp. Silence filled the arena. Then medical drones swarmed in, checking Fang's status. The beast was alive but unconscious, its spine damaged. The fight had lasted 4 minutes. Atlas stood over his defeated opponent, breathing hard but not exhausted. He looked up at Ben's platform. Ben signed, "Good, first one done." The crowd exploded into shocked noise. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human's champion wasn't supposed to win. Not this easily. Not this quickly. In the viewing box, Quell turned to General Hearn. "Your assessment was incorrect." Hearn's scaled face showed no emotion. "One trial proves nothing. 11 remain." But Quell watched Atlas being escorted off the arena floor and wondered. The gorilla hadn't just won. It had fought intelligently. It had observed, calculated, and executed a strategy. That was not supposed to be possible for a creature Earth considered an animal. They gave Atlas only 2 hours before the second trial. Barely enough time for medical drones to scan him and confirm he was fit to continue. The ribs where Fang's tail had struck were bruised but not broken. Ben used the time to show Atlas footage of the next opponent, Render of the Ice World. Render was faster than Fang. It moved on 6 legs that could grip any surface. Its claws could cut through metal, and unlike Fang, Render was a pursuit predator. It didn't ambush. It chased until its prey collapsed from exhaustion. "You can't let it control the pace," Ben said, signing as he spoke. "If it keeps you moving, you'll tire. You need to end it fast," Atlas signed back. "Understand. We'll finish quick." The second trial began under a sky that rained snow. The arena had been transformed into a frozen landscape. Ice covered everything in a slick, treacherous layer. Ben watched from his platform, his breath forming clouds in the suddenly frigid air. Render entered from the north gate. The 6-legged predator moved across the ice without slipping, its claws finding purchase where nothing else could. It was beautiful in a terrible way, built perfectly for its frozen home world. Atlas tested the ice carefully. His feet slipped slightly. This wasn't his environment. The silverback had evolved for forests and mountains, not glaciers. But he adapted quickly, keeping his center of gravity low, using all 4 limbs for stability. Render didn't hesitate. It charged immediately, moving faster than should have been possible on the ice. Its claws extended like knives. Atlas tried to move aside but slipped. Render's attack connected, raking across Atlas's left shoulder. Blood bloomed bright red against dark fur. The crowd cheered. This was what they expected. The animal champion struggling against a superior predator. But Atlas didn't panic. He regained his footing and turned to face Render's next charge. This time when the creature attacked, Atlas was ready. He let Render commit fully to the strike, then grabbed 2 of its legs mid-lunge. The sudden grip broke Render's momentum. Both beings crashed onto the ice together. What followed was 7 minutes of brutal close-quarters combat. Render was fast and had more legs, but Atlas was stronger and smarter. Every time Render tried to create distance, Atlas pulled it back. Every time Render slashed with its claws, Atlas shifted position to minimize damage. Finally, Atlas managed to pin 4 of Render's legs against the ice with his own weight. The creature thrashed but couldn't break free. Atlas grabbed the remaining 2 legs and pulled. Hard. The sound of breaking chitin echoed across the arena. Render shrieked. Atlas swung the creature like a club and slammed it into an ice wall. Once was enough. Render went limp. Medical drones rushed in again. Atlas stood slowly, favoring his injured shoulder. Blood dripped onto the white ice, creating patterns of red on white. But he was alive. He'd won again. Ben rushed down from the platform as soon as the medical team cleared him. He checked Atlas's wounds himself, not trusting the alien technology completely. The shoulder gashes were deep but clean. The drones had already applied synthetic tissue to stop the bleeding and accelerate healing. 2 down, Ben said quietly. 10 to go. Atlas signed back. Getting harder. Ben couldn't argue. Each beast would be stronger than the last. The assembly had arranged the trials by difficulty, saving the most dangerous for when Atlas would be tired and injured. It was designed to be impossible, but impossible had never stopped them before. The crowd's noise had changed. Ben could hear it even from the holding area. Less mockery now, more uncertainty. Some beings were actually cheering for Atlas. The underdog story was beginning to spread across the galaxy. They had 4 hours until Trial 3. Ben used every minute to prepare. He showed Atlas footage of Shrike, the flying predator that would be next. This one would be different. Harder to predict, harder to catch. Shrike could attack from any angle in 3-dimensional space. Atlas watched the footage carefully. His dark eyes tracked Shrike's movements. Learning. Always learning. Ben felt hope mixing with fear. They'd survived 2 trials, but 10 remained, and each one was designed to kill. Atlas's shoulder wound had barely begun to heal when they called him for Trial 3. Ben protested to the officials, arguing that 4 hours wasn't enough recovery time. The response was cold and mechanical. The gauntlet rules were absolute. The champion fights when scheduled or forfeits. Ben wanted to forfeit. He wanted to take Atlas and leave this place. 2 victories were already more than anyone expected. They'd proven their point. But when he signed the suggestion to Atlas, the Silverback refused. He signed back, not finished, continue. Trial 3 presented a new horror. The arena filled with thick green fog that burned Ben's eyes even from the observation platform. Toxic mist covered everything, reducing visibility to just a few feet. Somewhere in that poison cloud, Shrike waited. The flying predator had a wingspan of 30 feet. Its talons secreted a paralytic toxin that could stop a heart in minutes. But the real advantage was Shrike's thermal vision. The creature could see through the fog using heat signatures. Atlas would be blind while Shrike hunted with perfect clarity. Ben lost sight of Atlas almost immediately. The Silverback disappeared into the green mist. All Ben could do was watch the holographic displays that showed different camera angles. His hands gripped the platform railing hard enough to hurt. Shrike attacked from above. Its talons raked across Atlas's back. The Silverback roared in pain and swung blindly, but Shrike was already gone, circling for another strike. The paralytic toxin began working immediately. Atlas's movement slowed. His right arm started to go numb. The crowd sensed victory for their side. This was where the animal would fall. This was where natural selection would prove that humans and their creatures didn't belong among the stars. But Atlas didn't try to see Shrike. Instead, he listened. The Silverback stood perfectly still, his head tilted, waiting, learning the sound of those massive wings cutting through toxic air. Shrike dove again. At the last possible moment, Atlas moved, not away from the sound, but toward it. His left hand shot up, guided purely by hearing, and caught something solid. A leg. Atlas's fingers closed around Shrike's talons despite the poison coating them. The flying predator shrieked and tried to lift away, but Atlas's grip held firm. Even with paralytic toxin numbing both hands now, the Silverback's strength was enough. He pulled Shrike down from the air and slammed it into the ground. Shrike's wings beat frantically, creating whirlwinds in the fog. Claws slashed at Atlas's chest and arms, but Atlas had learned from Fang and Render. He positioned his body to protect vital areas while his hands found Shrike's wings. One powerful grip, one brutal twist. The sound of breaking bone. Shrike's left wing snapped. The creature's flight became impossible. When Atlas broke the right wing seconds later, the fight was over. Trial 3 had lasted 11 minutes. Medical drones swarmed in with antitoxins. Ben jumped from the platform before getting clearance, running through the dissipating fog to reach his friend. Atlas was swaying on his feet, his hands almost completely numb, his back and chest covered in bleeding cuts. "That's enough," Ben said, his voice breaking. "We're done. We proved what we needed to prove." Atlas looked at him through half-focused eyes. The paralytic was affecting his vision now. But he signed with numb fingers, "Not done. More coming." Dr. Hannah Wright met them in the medical bay. She was the chief physician Earth had sent with the expedition. a woman who'd spent 20 years treating everything from combat injuries to exotic diseases. She took one look at Atlas and started cursing. "He needs weeks to heal from this, not hours," she said while working frantically. "The toxin is damaging his nervous system. Those cuts are deep enough to need surgical closure. And you're telling me he has to fight again in 6 hours?" "That's what the rules say," Ben replied quietly. "Then the rules are designed for murder." But she worked miracles anyway. Synthetic skin to close the wounds, nerve stimulators to counteract the paralytic, painkillers that wouldn't slow Atlas's reflexes. Every treatment Earth's medical science could provide, she administered. Atlas slept through most of it. Ben sat beside him, holding one massive hand, watching his friend's chest rise and fall. 3 trials complete. 9 remained. The odds were still impossible. Dr. Wright pulled Ben aside after finishing her work. "I need you to understand something. His body is accumulating damage faster than we can repair it. Each fight adds stress to systems that never evolved for this kind of sustained combat. If he continues, there's a real chance he won't survive even if he wins the fights." "I know. Then why are you letting him do this?" Ben looked at Atlas's sleeping form. "Because he's choosing to. Not for glory or pride. He's doing it to protect me and everything we represent. How can I take that choice away from him?" Dr. Wright had no answer for that. Trial 4 began under artificial sunlight that felt too bright and too hot. The arena had transformed into a volcanic landscape. Molten rock flowed in rivers. Heat waves made the air shimmer. And from the north gate emerged Ravage, a creature that looked like it was carved from living stone. Ravage was 6 tons of armored death. Its shell had evolved to withstand temperatures that would melt steel. Its pincers could crush boulders. And unlike the previous opponents, Ravage was patient. It didn't rush. It simply advanced slowly, inevitably, like a force of nature. Atlas was still recovering from the paralytic. His hands trembled slightly. His movements were slower than before. Ben could see exhaustion in every line of his friend's body. But the Silverback squared his shoulders and prepared to fight. The battle lasted 23 minutes. It was the longest yet and the most brutal. Ravage's shell deflected Atlas's strikes. The heat from the lava flows sapped the Silverback's strength. Every exchange left Atlas more battered while Ravage seemed untouched. Ben watched in growing horror as Atlas tried everything. Direct strikes. Grappling attempts. Looking for weak points in that impenetrable armor. Nothing worked. Ravage kept advancing, kept attacking, kept grinding Atlas down. Blood dripped from Atlas's knuckles where skin had split from hitting stone-like shell. His breathing came in ragged gasps. The heat was overwhelming. This was the end. This was where the impossible finally proved itself truly impossible. Then Atlas changed tactics. Instead of attacking the shell, he circled around Ravage. The creature turned to follow, but it was slow. Atlas was faster even in his exhausted state. He got behind Ravage and pushed using all his remaining strength. Ravage toppled forward onto its back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Atlas saw it. The underside wasn't armored like the shell. Soft tissue, vulnerable organs, everything that needed protection but couldn't have weight. Atlas didn't hesitate. He dropped onto Ravage's exposed underside with both fists together. The impact was devastating. He struck again. And again. The 4th blow caved in Ravage's chest plate from inside. The creature's legs stopped moving. Atlas collapsed beside his defeated opponent. Medical drones rushed in, but this time they went to Atlas first. Dr. Wright was screaming into her communicator for emergency assistance. Ben reached Atlas and rolled him over. The Silverback's eyes were open but unfocused. His breathing was shallow. Burns covered his arms and legs from getting too close to the lava flows. His hands were destroyed, the knuckles showing bone through torn flesh. "Stay with me," Ben begged. "Please, Atlas, stay with me." Atlas's hand moved weakly. He tried to sign something but couldn't make his fingers work. Ben understood anyway. The message was clear even without words: keep going. Not done yet. The medical team loaded Atlas onto a transport and rushed him to intensive care. 4 trials complete. 8 remained. But Ben knew the truth. Atlas couldn't survive 8 more fights. His body was breaking down. The damage was too severe, too cumulative. Ambassador Odom's face appeared on the communication screen in the medical bay. "Ben, you need to forfeit. The entire world is watching Atlas suffer. This isn't worth it." "Tell that to him," Ben said, gesturing to where Atlas lay surrounded by medical equipment. Dr. Wright was injecting synthetic bone growth accelerators into Atlas's hands. She was using every advanced treatment available, legal or otherwise. Other species had started sending medical supplies secretly. The Verdani sent healing salves. The Aquari sent regenerative compounds. Even some handlers whose beasts had fallen were helping. The galaxy was beginning to understand what they were witnessing. Not just a fight for Earth's sovereignty, but something deeper. A demonstration of bonds that transcended species, of loyalty that ignored the odds, of courage that faced impossible challenges anyway. 6 hours until Trial 5. Ben sat beside Atlas and wondered how they would survive what came next. Medical alarms filled the room with urgent beeping. Atlas's vital signs were unstable. His body temperature kept spiking from the volcanic burns. Dr. Wright worked without stopping, her hands moving between injectors and scanners and synthetic tissue applicators. She'd been working for 4 straight hours, racing against time to make Atlas functional enough to survive Trial 5. Ben hadn't moved from his spot beside the medical bed. He watched every treatment, every injection, every desperate attempt to keep his friend alive. The synthetic bone growth in Atlas's hands was taking hold, but the process caused intense pain. Atlas bore it silently, his jaw clenched, his eyes closed. "This is madness," Dr. Wright said for the 100th time. "His kidneys are under severe stress from all the antitoxins. 3 of his ribs are cracked. The burns alone would put a human in the hospital for weeks. And you're asking him to fight again in 2 hours. "I'm not asking him anything," Ben replied. "He's choosing this himself. He's an animal. He doesn't understand what—" "Don't." Ben's voice was sharp. "Don't ever call him just an animal. He understands perfectly. He knows the cost. And he's willing to pay it." Dr. Wright looked at Atlas, at the intelligence clearly visible in those dark eyes, and fell silent. She returned to her work with renewed determination. A visitor arrived an hour before Trial 5. The door opened to reveal a being that looked like a walking plant. Tess of the Verdani Collective moved into the room on root-like legs. Her leaf-covered body swayed gently as she approached the medical bed. "I am Handler Tess," she said through Ben's translator. "My beast fell to yours in Trial 2. I have come to offer assistance." Ben stood defensively between Tess and Atlas. "Why would you help us?" "Because what you have shown is revolutionary," Tess replied. Her voice carried a musical quality that the translator couldn't fully capture. "My people, the Verdani, have always believed in partnership with our world's creatures. We were alone in this belief among the great species. But you, humans, you show the galaxy something they have forgotten. That strength comes not from domination but from cooperation." Tess extended a branch-like arm, holding a container filled with glowing blue paste. "This is Verdani healing salve. It is illegal under gauntlet rules, but it cannot be detected by their scanners. It will ease his pain and accelerate healing. Not much, but enough perhaps to give him a chance." Ben took the container carefully. "Why risk helping us?" "Because if you succeed, everything changes. The Assembly will have to acknowledge that partnership is strength. That respect between species is not weakness." Tess turned toward the door, then paused. "Your Atlas fights for more than Earth now. He fights for all of us who believe there is a better way." After Tess left, Ben applied the salve to Atlas's worst burns. The effect was immediate. The angry red skin began to fade. Atlas's breathing eased. When he opened his eyes, they were clearer than they'd been in hours. Atlas signed slowly. "Ready? Next fight." Trial 5 began in a constructed jungle environment. Dense vegetation covered everything. The artificial sky above was dim, creating deep shadows. This was the domain of Mauler, a pack predator that hunted through intelligence rather than raw power. Mauler entered the arena alone, but its mind was designed for group tactics. 600 pounds of muscle and cunning. The creature looked like a cross between a bear and a giant cat. But what made Mauler truly dangerous was its brain. Tests showed cognitive abilities approaching dolphin intelligence. The fight didn't start with an attack. It started with a chess game. Mauler circled, probing, testing Atlas's responses. The creature set traps using the terrain, breaking branches to create obstacles, disturbing vegetation to mask its movements. Atlas recognized the strategy. He'd dealt with intelligent opponents before in the wild, settling disputes with other silverbacks that required thinking as much as strength. The silverback began counterplaying, deliberately exposing false weaknesses, setting his own traps. 35 minutes passed with only brief exchanges of blows. The crowd grew restless. They wanted blood and violence, not strategy. but those who understood what they were watching realized this was more impressive than any quick victory. Two intelligent beings engaged in a battle of wits. Finally, Mauler committed to an ambush from elevated position. Atlas had predicted it. He'd left himself vulnerable in that spot deliberately, waiting for Mauler to take the bait. When the creature leapt down, Atlas was ready. He turned the ambush into a counterattack, using Mauler's own momentum against it. The fight ended with Atlas's arm around Mauler's throat, applying pressure until the creature went unconscious. Trial 5 complete, but there was no rest. The gauntlet schedule demanded Trial 6 begin immediately. Atlas barely had time to drink water before the arena transformed again. This time, the environment became crystalline caverns. Sharp formations jutted from every surface, catching light and throwing it in disorienting patterns. From the north gate emerged Splinter, a creature from Quell's own homeworld. Splinter was unlike anything Atlas had faced. Its body was composed of crystal shards that could separate and reform at will. Crushing it did nothing. The shards simply scattered and reassembled. It was nearly impossible to kill through conventional means. For an hour, Atlas fought something that couldn't be beaten through strength alone. Every blow that landed just separated Splinter into component pieces that reformed moments later. The creature struck from multiple angles simultaneously, its shards cutting deep into Atlas's flesh. Ben watched helplessly as his friend bled from dozens of cuts. This was worse than the other fights. At least those enemies could be defeated. Splinter seemed invincible. Then Ben noticed something. The way Splinter's shards vibrated when they reformed. They were responding to some kind of frequency. He started shouting to Atlas, describing what he saw. Atlas, exhausted and in pain, tried to understand. Finally, the Silverback tried something different. He stopped attacking and started using his chest beats. The deep, resonant sound created vibrations that disrupted Splinter's reformation. The creature's shards began to scatter without reassembling properly. Atlas identified the central core shard, the one piece that controlled all the others. He grabbed it and crushed it between his hands before Splinter could react. The other shards fell lifeless to the ground. 6 trials complete. Atlas collapsed immediately. Medical drones swarmed in, their scanners showing critical alerts across every system. Dr. Wright arrived running, her face white with fear. "He's going into shock," she said while working. "His body can't take any more. The accumulated damage is shutting down major functions." They transported Atlas back to intensive care. His breathing was shallow. His heart rate was irregular. Blood tests showed his kidneys were failing. The synthetic bone treatments in his hands were causing immune reactions. Every system was pushed beyond its limits. Ben held Atlas's hand while Dr. Wright fought to stabilize him. The Silverback's eyes opened briefly. He signed with trembling fingers. "How many left?" 6, Ben replied, tears streaming down his face. 6 more. But we're done." "You've done enough." Atlas shook his head weakly. He tried to sign again but couldn't make his hands work properly. The message was clear anyway in his eyes. "Not done, not finished. Keep going. You'll die," Ben said bluntly. "The next fight might kill you even if you win it." Atlas's hand squeezed Ben's once, then went still. Not dead, just unconscious, his body finally forcing rest that his will had denied. Dr. Wright pulled Ben aside. "I need to tell you something. Even with every treatment we have, his body will not heal enough for 6 more fights. Maybe he survives 1 more, possibly 2 if we're lucky. But 6? She shook her head. "It's not medically possible. Then what do we do?" "You forfeit. You take him home. You let him heal and live the rest of his life in peace." Ben looked at his friend lying broken on the medical bed. Every instinct screamed to do exactly what Dr. Wright suggested. Take Atlas away from this place. Protect him from further harm. But then he remembered why they'd come here. Not for glory or pride. To show the galaxy that partnership was strength, that bonds between species could achieve impossible things. If they quit now, the message would be that partnership worked until things got too hard. "How long until Trial 7? Ben asked. "The rules give 48 hours rest after completing 6 trials. Dr. Wright replied reluctantly. 48 hours, Ben. That's all he gets to recover from damage that should require months. 48 hours to heal bones and burns and torn muscles and failing organs. 48 hours to prepare for 6 more trials that were designed to be the most lethal of all. Impossible odds had never stopped them before. But this time Ben wasn't sure if courage would be enough. The galaxy held its breath during those 48 hours. News networks across 1,000 worlds showed constant coverage of the medical bay where Atlas lay fighting for survival. Beings who'd never cared about Earth suddenly found themselves invested in the fate of one silverback gorilla. Betting markets that had mocked humanity's choice now showed Atlas as a favorite. Not to win all 12 trials. Nobody believed that was possible anymore. But to survive at least one more fight. To show courage one more time before the inevitable end. In the medical bay, Dr. Wright worked miracles. She'd been joined by physicians from 17 different species, all offering treatments that bent or broke gauntlet rules. The Aquari provided regenerative waters. The Verdani sent more healing compounds. Even the Shardborn, Quell's own people, quietly supplied crystalline resonators that eased pain. The galaxy was choosing sides. And slowly, impossibly, more beings were choosing Earth. Ambassador Odom arrived on Crucible Station during the second day of rest. She found Ben sitting beside Atlas, watching his friend breathe through tubes and monitors. Atlas was unconscious, his body using every available resource to heal. "The Global Council has voted," Rachel said quietly. "They're authorizing you to forfeit. You've done more than enough." Earth's message has been heard across the galaxy. "What does Atlas want?" Ben asked. "He's unconscious. He can't make that choice right now." "Yes, he can." Ben pointed to Atlas's hand. Even in sleep, the fingers occasionally twitched, forming partial signs. "He's dreaming about fighting. About protecting. About finishing what we started." Rachel sat down heavily. "6 more trials, Ben. The beasts they've saved for last are the most dangerous of all. The medical reports say Atlas has maybe a 30% chance of surviving even one more fight." "I know. Then why continue?" Ben was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what Atlas taught me during our 12 years together? That real courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being terrified and choosing to act anyway." "He's scared." "I know he is. But he's choosing to continue because he believes in what we're showing the galaxy. And if he dies, then he dies doing what he chose. I won't take that choice away from him." Atlas woke 6 hours before Trial 7. The first thing he did was look for Ben. When he saw his friend sitting nearby, Atlas signed, "Still here, good." Ben signed back, "Always here. How do you feel?" Atlas considered the question honestly. He signed, "Hurt, tired, ready." Dr. Wright ran final scans. The results were better than expected, but still frightening. Atlas's body was held together by synthetic tissue, accelerated healing compounds, and sheer willpower. 3 cracked ribs remained. His hands had healed enough to grip but would cause pain with every strike. The burns had faded to angry scars. Kidney function was improved but not normal. "He's functional," Dr. Wright said. "Not healthy. Not even close to healthy. But functional enough to fight." Trial 7 brought a challenge Atlas had never imagined. The arena transformed into a zero-gravity environment. Voidwing emerged from its gate. A creature evolved in asteroid fields. It moved through 3-dimensional space with perfect control while Atlas flailed helplessly. For 10 minutes, Voidwing dominated. Its blade-like wings sliced at Atlas from every direction. The Silverback couldn't orient himself, couldn't defend properly, couldn't attack. Blood floated in droplets around them, painting the air red. Ben watched in horror from his platform, also floating in zero gravity. Then he understood. Atlas needed direction. The Silverback couldn't see attacks coming from above and below and behind all at once, but Ben could. He could see the holographic displays, could track Voidwing's approach patterns. "Left," Ben shouted. "Above you, behind!" Atlas began responding to the directions using Ben as his eyes. Human and gorilla working as one unit, adapting in real time to an environment neither had experienced before. When Atlas finally caught Voidwing, he used a piece of floating debris as a weapon, ending the fight. Trial 8 submerged them underwater. Hydrus, a deep ocean predator 40 feet long, nearly killed Atlas in the first minute. Tentacles wrapped around the Silverback and dragged him down toward a beak that could bite through steel. But Atlas had spent years near rivers and lakes. He understood water, understood how to move in it, understood how to find an enemy's weak points even when half drowned. The water turned dark with Hydrus's blood before the fight ended. Atlas surfaced gasping, barely conscious, his body covered in new wounds. Medical drones pulled him from the water before he could drown. Trial 9 brought terror, a 6-ton monster with volcanic hide and breath that incinerated flesh. Dr. Wright had screamed that Atlas couldn't possibly survive this fight. His body was too damaged, too exhausted, too broken. But Atlas faced terror with something beyond physical strength. He charged directly into the heat breath, taking burns that made him roar in agony, and drove his fists into Terror's skull with savage determination. 8 minutes of pure violence. When it ended, Atlas's hands were destroyed again and his arms were burned black. 9 trials complete. 3 remained. Ben held Atlas in the medical bay while Dr. Wright did what she could. "We can stop," Ben begged. "You've proven everything. The whole galaxy has seen your courage." Atlas shook his head. His hands were too damaged to sign clearly, but he managed 3 letters. NOT, then pointed forward. "Not done, keep going." Trial 10 occurred in absolute darkness. Nightshade hunted Atlas for 28 minutes using senses the Silverback didn't possess. But Ben's voice guided him through the dark, a lifeline in the void. When Atlas finally caught the invisible predator, the galaxy erupted in cheers. Trial 11 pitted Atlas against Colossus, a 15-foot titan with strength exceeding even the Silverbacks. For 52 brutal minutes they fought. No strategy, no tricks, just 2 warriors testing each other's limits. Atlas's left arm broke. Colossus's leg shattered. In the end, Atlas's will proved stronger. One final blow dropped Colossus to the ground. 11 trials complete. 1 remained, but Atlas couldn't stand. Medical scans showed catastrophic system failures. Dr. Wright pleaded with the assembly to stop the gauntlet. They'd seen enough. Earth had proven its worth. Quell's crystalline body pulsed with light as the Shardborn leader made a decision. "The final trial will proceed, but we extend rest period to 12 hours. This is appropriate." The final beast was Apex, a genetically engineered composite of all the other's strengths. Fast, venomous, intelligent, and armored. The assembly's ultimate weapon, designed specifically to defeat any champion that made it this far. When Apex was released, something unprecedented happened. Ven jumped from his observation platform into the arena, violating every rule. He stood beside Atlas, facing the final beast together. The assembly erupted in chaos. Disqualification seemed certain. But Quell raised a crystalline hand. "Let it continue. The human shows us what we have forgotten. The bond is the strength." What followed became legend. Ben and Atlas moved as one being. When Apex attacked Atlas, Ben distracted it. When Apex cornered Ben, Atlas intervened. Human mind and gorilla strength combined, united against impossible odds. 67 minutes, the longest fight of all. It ended when Atlas, guided by Ben's positioning, delivered a strike that no amount of engineering could withstand. Apex fell. Silence filled the arena. Then the Verdani began chanting. Others joined. Within minutes, 2 million voices from across the galaxy were chanting Atlas's name. In the council chambers, Quell addressed the assembly. "We sought to humble humanity. Instead, we learned what makes them dangerous. Not technology, not individual strength, but their ability to form bonds that transform everything they touch. Earth has won its sovereignty." 3 months later, Ben and Atlas returned to the Rwanda sanctuary. The wounds had healed into scars. The galaxy had changed. Species reconsidered their relationships with their own world's creatures. New protocols for assembly membership emphasized cooperation over conquest. A young reporter asked Ben if he could do it again. Ben shook his head. "We never wanted to fight. We wanted to show the galaxy what partnership looks like. That humans aren't special because we're strong or smart. We're special because we recognize strength and intelligence in others and choose to walk beside them." Atlas signed to Ben. "Home good, peace good." Ben signed back, "Yes, my friend. We're home." The story ended with them sitting together at sunset, human and gorilla side by side. In the distance, a transport ship landed carrying representatives from species across the galaxy who wanted to learn Earth's philosophy. The scars of 12 battles remained visible, but the bond between Ben and Atlas had never been stronger. The galaxy was changing, not through conquest, but through example. One conservationist and one Silverback had shown the universe that partnership, loyalty, and courage could achieve the impossible. And somewhere in the stars, beings who'd once mocked Earth's champion now told their children stories of Atlas, the gorilla who fought for more than survival. He fought for a better way forward. And he won.